everybody. Thank you for coming to hear the three of us. I'm being captured by this camera. I'm Cecil Giscombe. I'm going to read a couple of poetry sequences. I'm going to read a little bit from an essay as well. Start with a poem. On a line by Renee Gladman. A line from Renee Gladman's A Novel, Event Factory. To be doubly incapable of arrival, always waiting, I thought. Damn, Voci, belated. Address, taboo. Countenance, hard rather than riddle me, silly second person. The hundreds place, 100 facts, or hundreds and hundreds. Coming up is more reticence or no future at all. Veil that. Veil planning. No pathology in sight, neither. Excuse me. No pathology in sight either. No joke. My word, my failure. My own silence, every place singular. Blank, depart. Need? Don't wish to be duplicitous or perfect. Would yield instead, that is, rather than fool them by showing up like a paragraph or heat. My advice? My mantra. Mantra like a mechanical bat, like an air brake, like a telephone dance, like light rain, like the symptoms of unhappiness or some gray-ass cloud repeating left to right. African American, as I've noted elsewhere, or like a referendum varying ever so slightly in its interpretations, like a mask or like embarrassment, like applying, like speed restrictions, like the query, where are you at? To continue, don't sex the locals. Okay, this is from an essay. The essay is called Back Burner, and it's an essay about cooking. And it's also about shopping for food in chain supermarkets in the States and in Britain in the public markets, notably the covered market in Oxford, downtown Oxford. The essay contains poems. It contains songs. It contains a snippet from Ernest Hemingway. It contains a bunch of stuff. And an old poem is included in this excerpt that I'm going to read. Back Burner was originally the title essay for a book of essays. That's been changed. I don't know why I told you that. It's the last essay in the book, which is now called Border Towns. From Back Burner. Now, it's 2013, and my job at home has been to be cook in good times and bad. As for me and my house, I run the kitchen. My wok, my skillets, my ability with sauces and marinades. If you can read, you can cook, a woman told me when I rented a room with kitchen privileges from her in Boston 30 years ago. Conventional wisdom, but I heard it first from her. I can read. And I can also imagine and arrange and remember and plan and repeat and vary and interrupt. I can map meals for a week. I can cook right through disaster. Some pages go by in the essay, which I'm not going to read. In Birmingham, my father learned how to cure hams from his father, but my grandfather was no rustic peasant. He was, like his son, my father, a physician. My grandfather had come to Birmingham from Buff Bay, Portland Parish, Jamaica. He'd gone to work as a very young man for United Fruit, saved money, and come to the States to go to Clark and then to Meharry Medical College, which produced many generations of black doctors. When my father was a baby, he had left for a year, or possibly 2 years, to study anesthesiology at the University of Edinburgh. In 2013, the full text of his 1923 article, General Anesthesia, is available online. You can look it up. He died in 1962 when I was 11. We, my family didn't raise our own food, but my father always had a garden, even in his last year, 2009, which he spent in assisted living in Oakland, California. And here's the poem. 1962, at the edge of town. No West Indians that I could see at my grandfather's funeral. Long-lost relatives always eat a lot, said my mother, meaning just as well. On the ride to the graveyard at the furthest Negro edge of Birmingham proper, the city got lush in places, then gave way, so descriptive shoulders of hills came into view over which ranged pine trees, and on a ridge through those, some white people went by on a train. So near I could see them from where we stood under the canvas, their pale arms and faces at the windows clearly. The pastoral was looming up close as well, the mosaic of brightest southern colors. It was that for decades my grandfather was doctor also to people out past the edge of town and took payment for that in hams and baskets of greens, fruit. But all value is assigned, is brought in. Still, being the density in Mirabeau was what I found confusing. The fickle layers to endure, the worth standing in. End of the poem. When I lived in Oxford, I began to read Elizabeth David. French Provincial Cooking, her famous book. French Provincial Cooking took France to be a complex neighborhood, something to live with the way one unexpectedly might live any place and come to terms or familiarity with the complexity, even if the complexity does not belong to one. History of cooking? I learned to shop from my mother, but I learned to cook in my 20s by reading The Rombauers, by reading Craig Claiborne and Julie Jordan's Wings of Life. And that reading was adequate until I got into the covered market in Oxford. The idea for me is not the product of cooking, some authentic or coherent example of cuisine, be the food on the plate fried chicken or coq au vin, but the articulated and social experience itself of the market, with its essential, if occasionally luxurious, if occasionally unexpected goods. Its knowledgeable and hortatory shoppers and butchers, the experience gained over time by simple memory or familiarity, and later, the immediate experience in the kitchen that cooking is. Or cooking merges with situation. What's been on the back burner all this time? Who do you cook for? Where do you go to think about anything? If the idea is that the nature of the things separate from the thing's public status, meaning more contradictory and more immediate than that, though divorced from neither the cruelty of history nor the ambiguous quotidian, then nothing is captured or even treed in the kitchen. No clear voice emanates to set recipes or spice jars aright, or guide stock pots to completion. The idea perhaps is to go on making things as one can, without synthesizing, resisting, that is, the inclination to gather or to fix. The ideas, continuation, experience, are really rather simple. Many years later, when she was a student at Cornell University, my daughter Madeline would telephone from the Wegmans Superstore with questions about cooking. In November 2012, on a visit to Ithaca, I did my afternoon meditation in a rented car, parked inconspicuously on the Wegmans property. I was the back burner itself, low heat, far edge of the lot. It's the end of the essay, or the end of that part of the essay. It goes on and says a bunch of other stuff. I'll read a poem. I was asked, along with a number of other people, to write something in response to the sculptures by Mark de Souvreau, which are up at Crissy Field as we speak. Music, painting, sculpture does in fact frame and reframe the landscape. But my interest as well is in how landscapes, especially unlikely ones, even the landscape of industrial corridors and urban fringe areas, can deliver unexpected moments of brightness, great beauty, the stuff built out of function, proximity, and perhaps especially interruption. I'm speaking here in part of my old fascination with bridges. I love bridges. And the work by Mark de Souvreau speaks to me of all the things bridges are. My poem, which I'm really going to read in a moment, on the fact of this work in a public place continues to reference that interest in bridges and in the flesh. The poem was written in Iowa City this summer in a hotel called the Iowa House. I fell asleep reading Mark de Souvreau's dream book, and this is what I dreamt and what I remember. Iowa House, summer 2013. Put up in Iowa City and up from having dreamt of being very high in the air over Seattle, as though I were dead, and looking down, but seeing only King Street Station and nearby the sprawl of Safeco Field where the Mariners play, and where in memory looms the figure, though not in the dream, in lights of a Negro repeatedly swinging a baseball bat. Though the dream had to do with its own teetering height over two landmarks, that riddle, and not Elliott Bay or wide Puget Sound. No water in the dream, or even fabulous Alaska Way from which the ferries depart. Instead, the spire on King Street, practically an all beneath me, and the graduations, the baseball field. Who has not been, who among you could not have been in some sense on trail? Proximate part of a similarly imperfect triangle, the two of them, stadium, train station, meaning something different from one another. No water to the dream, and no bridge either. At the foot of the Iowa House, though, was a river and bridges, and also a memory, the fact of my father summering in Iowa City in 1942 or 1943, of his having met then both Jewish guys and white guys, he told me 60 years later, at the university. For a time, toward the tail end of the 20th century, I lived in Seattle, above Ravenna Park, and can remember that city easily because of that. Okay. I'll read you a fragment from a couple of fragments from a work in progress called 7 for my 62nd birthday. There are many more fragments than 7. Fragment from my 7 for my 62nd birthday, 21st of May. These all have dates on. 21st of May. She said, get your bearings. 24th of May. And I should say, the 7 for my 62nd birthday is about a poem about Pennsylvania, where I lived once for 10 hard years. 21st May, she said, get your bearings. 24th May, the Commonwealth was lousy with bears. A child's judgment, obligation, then denial. 10th June, I'd misread silence as sleep. Sometimes the music comes, slowed down, music slowed down, dumbed down to nothing. Noise in the bushes, boys and girls. Campfire story, silence in the bushes. In a movie made in the last year of the 20th century, Negroes stole Dracula's body with predictable results. But it's just that to be alive is to be dead as well. That joke, like a sour stomach. What foolishness is this opposite me? 18th June. Tangle. Unloosen me. Ride the tangle out. Unimaginable, this tangle, embarrassed at it. Train came for me to ride, dream, and I knew it. Dark yellow color, its string of dirty yellow cars, coaches. I can pass until I speak. Or meditation with its steady beat, continuous like the obvious train. It's not like sleep's unplumed descent, unmourned absence. Just a plunge, a few sounds on the way. Meditation is pure trace. No feet, honey, foot free. 16th of August. She said long ago that people would be jealous and try to thwart us. Another grammar though for the trouble white people bring. And once you know the grammar, once you master it, you're more whole in those situations. I was taught to look the other way, look further off, look over their heads, look like what? As though death were complicated as leaving town. Watch verbs. And I'm going to read the last 4 poems in a sequence called Early Evening. They're numbered. So 7, 8, 9, 9, and 10. 7. Still talking about Pennsylvania. 7. Sleep well, Charlie. There's no microphone here. Okay, good, thanks. Amazing. 7. Sleep well, Charlie Brown. Pray for daylight and the devil. Pray for the Commonwealth. Pray for the busy world. Evening comes for you. Ballads, show tunes, certain melodies, or mouth distended. Cry all night. Lurch through or stay back. Watch out for rain and tempest. Wait, brother, wait. Predation is crepuscular. Or be prepared to greet the white man's handsome woman in the backyard. The old gentleman pacing beneath the laurel. You could be fawn-colored. What's your real name? Somebody said talent comes like dogs. Stupid, noisy, familiar. On television, someone said even the devil can't fool a dog. Remember, brother, that 7 is heaven itself, a concrete expression. White nights, Charlie Brown, white nights. You can haunt the campsites, troublous life, baby, hushed world. Haunt the campsites like a fat man. 8. I had no business being downtown, not this late in the low season. Your voice reduced to measurement like stains on a placemat. Hit or miss. River towns differ from valley towns. Where are you at? We could go to the movies together, Charlie Brown, but sit separately and compare later. I had a date with a dish. 8, Charlie Brown? Nothing but a gate. A furnace of the soul, a heyday. A concrete viaduct and sections to jump between. Who's there? And the other devil's name. So-and-so from down by the big gate, or from down in the valley. You are the awful shadow. In a backyard, the blind man killed a crow. In the borough, it was belts of neighborhood to work across, then a mean little hill up to the stadium. Where do you sit to think? I had taken the endless mountains, which come as far west as Susquehanna County, for a doppelganger, but that was an academic location, one I knew too well. 9. Having built a bridge across the wide mouth of a creek where it entered the ocean, I stalked the parapets. Center County was coastal somehow, and the mountain rose out of it, as it does, in fact, but from the docks and from my bridge as well. A seaside pocked with bays was once again my desire in the dream as well as my instruction. But I remember considering what I wanted time to tell me. 9 is wine, I could say. Sommelier's unlikely arrival later on, or 9 is mine, the remainder of my body at such an estuary. There's a water gap in Bald Eagle Mountain. It's open, it's called Tangletown. Hear the wind, baby? There it comes down the alley, long after the argument. A second thought, a little bump in the air. You were one jaunty animal, Missy Banjo, but don't you make a sound. And as a hen, Charlie Brown, and all the deceits of the world. Carol such, if you like, carol such as that. Hide your tail as you exit the house. Do you know where Canada is? It's the vexed hive of my power. Address me there. In Center County, I was a railroad bureaucrat. My heart was black as the 10 of spades, 10 times blacker than the ace. Manage the sorrows, Charlie Brown. What were you looking for down here on the mountain of tears? Evade, enclose. It's all thief catch thief, brother. Mr. Fats, you're a lost bet. Snow on Steam Valley. Remember your likings, Charlie Brown. Bird on a plate's an old practice. How's your nerve? And the last poem. Called Plague. It has an epigraph, something I got from, it's one of the posted comments for the fieldnegro.com blog. And the comment was, blacks stop being difficult with the police. Plague. Tell me what you want to do. Name the mountain after the street. Have all desire equal plague or location. Arrived late this evening, darling. Overstate, overstate. Tell me what you did just automatically. Or detach yourself to tell me what you were going to do. Name the river for the plague, baby. We did. To be a transient, to be called, but unnamed by anybody. Why, sugar, are mistakes? One thing looking like something else, getting a little ahead of the lyrics. So uninteresting. That's it. Thank you.